All right. Namaste and good evening, dear brothers and sisters. Today is Friday once again, and it's my privilege to welcome all of you on behalf of the Indian section to today's study on the Mahatma letters. Today is the study of Mahatma letter number 68, which will be directed by Brother Shikhar Agnihothri. Let us begin this session with the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are therefore one with every other. Welcome back to all of you. And as I said, today we have the privilege of Brother Shikhar Agnihothri, who will be conducting the study on chronological letter number 68. Shikharji is very well known to all of us in the Theosophical circles. I would like to give a brief introduction of him. He holds a bachelor's degree in the nautical science from Mumbai University and has worked in the shipping industry for 10 years, after which he took voluntary retirement. His mother, Srimati Vasumati Agnihotri, is a veteran and active member, and she had this theosophical influence on the young mind of Shikharji. And then he joined the society in 2008. As an active member since 2008, Shikharji has conducted numerous study camps, seminars, youth camps, and public lectures, not only on theosophical topics, but on holistic health all over India and internationally too. His articles have been published in several magazines. We have read many of them. And the founding of Pragya Lodge and Maitri TOS group goes to his credit. He has been a national lecturer of the Indian section for a long time, and he is also the international speaker of the Theosophical Society. He has started the YouTube channel Pragya CS Studio with his spouse Catalina, and they make theosophical teachings accessible to all. Presently, Shikharji is volunteering at the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society at Adyar. I welcome Brother Shikharji and request him to start today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, Vibha, for such a nice introduction, and namaste, pranam to all the sisters and brothers. It has been a long time that I have attended one of these sessions of Mahatma letters due to the convention that just concluded, but good to be back again with everyone. And today we'll be taking up, okay, maybe I'll try not to share the PowerPoint so we can just talk like that, or if something important comes or some image, I would share that. So today we are going to study letter number 68 in the chronological order, which is in other book ML number 16, which was received in July of 1882. So, but before we go into this letter, just preface to it that this is one of those letters, few letters that we come across in the Mahatma letters book, in which we really find the questions that were made by Mr. A.B. in it. Because in most of the letters are the answers on the basis of which we have to judge or anticipate or assume what the question might have been. But this, along with few other letters, are the letters in which the master has answered the question one by one, and the question is also there. That is one thing. Another thing is, in this letter especially, we will come across a teaching or a theory or esoteric principle that I don't think we we normally read in some other literature, or it is not very common in the normal discussions, even in theosophical circles. And why is that? When we come across it, we will see that. But to begin with this letter number 68, there, how it began is when the first question was asked by Mr. A.P. Sinnett, he gives reference to an article in that was published in the Theosophist, the magazine. Just a minute, my WhatsApp is on. I'll close that. So the article was published. The title of the article was "Seeming Discrepancies," and the discrepancies between what? Between some of the teachings that were shared in the series of articles, Fragments of Occult Truth, which were written by Mr. Hume at that time and later continued by Mr. Sinnett. So this person who raised these discrepancies between this and certain passages that were written by HPB in ISIS Unveiled. And this person, probably a man by the name of Mr. Davidson or Davison, who was also a scientific ornithologist, means who also studied the birds, just like Mr. Hume did. And he worked in close connection with Mr. Hume, serving in the capacity of his private secretary. So he rose those questions, which Sinnett thought that he thought it to be very important, and they deserved some clarification from the master. And he says in his first question that a good deal of what we have hitherto been told regarding spiritualism. Now we have to also keep in mind that all of this was happening in the last quarter of 19th century, when spiritualism, that is the mediumistic approach to spirituality, was taking grip in the society, and that's what the people thought is the way forward. So, and in the name of that, a lot of misunderstandings and going in the wrong direction was the possibility was there. So to counter that, to set it right, the Mahatmas had to, through HPB, through letters or HPB, had to write about what the real truth about this seances or mediumistic gatherings was there. So his question is, we had heard, and mind you that this letter is also known as Devachan letter, because it is principally, when we go along this letter in the coming turns also, today also, it deals, along with some side descriptions and discussions, it deals with that state into which the human enters between incarnations. So a lot of it will be, because a major part of it is happens in Devachan, so that's why this is also sometimes referred to as a Devachan letter. So continuing with the question, first question of Mr. Sinnett, that he says, we had heard already of a spiritual condition of life in which redeveloped ego enjoyed a conscious existence for a long time before incarnation in another world. But that branch of the subject has been slurred over. That he is saying that we heard about it, but it has not been properly explained, or it has been touched but not properly explained. And now there are some statements which are made about it. So that's why this inquiry. So his first inquiry is, in the Devachan, the new ego retains complete recollection of his life on earth, apparently. Is that so? Or is there any misunderstanding on that point on my part? So this is his first question, that in Devachan, the new ego, or the ego who has born there, retains complete recollection of his life on earth, whether this is correct or it's a misunderstanding. So first of all, I think we have studied, all of us must have studied in Theosophical literature, the word Devachan. It's a combination of Sanskrit and Tibetan word. Deva means God, and Chan means abode. So abode of the gods, or it's also called the land of Sukhavati, land of happiness or bliss. So now the master answers that the Devachan, or the land of Sukhavati, is allegorically described by Lord Buddha himself. Now, this is what we have to remember at every point while reading all such scriptures. Here in Theosophical literature, we are very lucky that we, along with the allegories, in most of the places, we get to understand or read the allegory, the symbolism behind the story or the image or the symbol. So that's why when the master is saying it is allegorically described by Lord Buddha himself, so we must not think literally all those things, but then there must be some esoteric meanings to it, which we will come to know. At least we can guess, or we can make an estimated guess, a little bit intelligent guess based on what we study. And the deeper we go on this, we contemplate on that, we can get some more understanding of it. So he said, what Lord Buddha has said may be found in name of the scripture. He says Shan Mon Yi Tong, which is the name of the scripture, Buddhist scripture. So what Buddha says, many thousands, myriads of systems of worlds beyond this, that is earth, there is a region of bliss called Sukhavati. This region is encircled with 7 rows of railings, 7 rows of vast curtains, 7 rows of waving trees. This holy abode of arhats, governed by the Tathagats, the Amchans, and possessed by the Bodhisattvas. It has 7 precious lakes, in the midst of which flow crystalline waters having 7 and 1 properties. So now, having read the Theosophical literature, we can have a faint idea that all these words, all these symbols that are being used, they are not literally those, but just like we hear, there are 7 planes of nature, and then each plane has 7 subdivisions. Then maybe there are certain more subdivisions among those subdivisions, and they are called by different names. We can have railings, or curtains, or waving trees, or maybe whatever the language of that time felt appropriate was used. So that's what he's saying. And when it is saying, amidst which flow crystalline waters having 7 and 1 properties or distinctive qualities, so the master gives a hint in the bracket that the 7 principles emanating from 1, that is 7 and 1. From 1 becomes 3, and then 3 becomes 7. That's how from 1 to many the process goes on. This, O Sariputta, is the Devachan. Most likely must be telling to his disciple Sariput that this is the Devachan, and he says its divine Udumbra flower casts a root in the shadow of every earth. Now, this is something to be understood. The Udumbra flower is used a lot in Buddhism for giving the sense of rarity, and also that it's the tree of fig, and what it happens when the seed falls somewhere, then it casts the root, just like any other seed, also in the earth, or sometimes if it falls on another tree, on the branches of that tree, and then slowly it overtakes that. So what is trying to say, that flower casts a root in the shadow of every earth, means the root is the earth, means the earth is the place of creating the causes, and the flower is in Devachan. So it means whatever causes that we are going to produce while we are in the physical body, since we are talking about Devachan right now, so I would add good causes, selfless causes, causes of service that we create, that we undertake on earth, being in the physical body. For them, he says, blossoms for all those who reach it. Those born in the blessed region are truly felicitous. There are no more griefs or sorrow in that cycle for them. So basically, those who have created those causes while being in the physical body, for them, that Devachan, or the land of the bliss, or the divine flower, it blossoms. Basically, it welcomes. And in that cycle, there is no more grief, means once this time period is over in Devachan, then another cycle begins. So that is the last stop in that cycle of birth and death, because after that, once the time is over in Devachan, based on the good actions, whatever energy was there of the good actions, the good causes, now it has been exhausted. So again, the Jivatma, or the ego, is now get this urge or get this pull under law of karma to be born again. So then it becomes its downward journey. And he says, myriads of spirits resort there for rest and then return to their own regions. That is in Devachan. A lot of course, to our fleshy eyes, they are all invisible. Spirits, they are in Devachan, they rest, because that's the region of those kind of vibrations. And then they further move on to their own respective regions based on their state of evolution. And return to their own regions means once is coming down. And there also, he says that there are many who are born in it are avayavartyas, that is literally who will never return. That is those now who are in the upward stage of evolution, who have crossed the human evolution and gone into the superhuman evolution. They are not bound to return to earth by karma. However, if they wish to do so, they can. And okay. So this was a brief explanation of the question that Mr. Sennett asked. And now the second question comes, because since being of the Christian religion background, he asked that except in the fact that the duration of existence of Devachan is limited. Because in Christianity, the concept of heaven or hell is in like forever. You get only one birth, and based on that birth, you go to either heaven or hell, and that is forever. So now he is asking that question, that if we remove that condition of forever, then Devachan and the Christian heaven, they have a very close resemblance if we remove the anthropomorphic idea of the God also. If we remove from the Christianity the anthropomorphic God, the idea of God being a personality sitting somewhere who is governing our destinies, and that he's there to decide whether we go to hell or heaven forever. If we remove those two ideas, then Devachan is actually very much it resembles like a normal heaven of ordinary religion. So what the master answers is, actually what he is still answering the first question now, and then he goes on to the second question. In this answer, he takes a little bit of the first question, that whether the ego who is born into Devachan retains the memory of the previous life. So he says, yes, once the new ego is reborn, he retains for some time, proportionate to its earth life, a complete recollection of his life on earth. But it can never return on earth from the Devachan. And also, now coming to the second question, that even if we remove all this idea of anthropomorphic God, that God is an personality sitting somewhere deciding on our destinies, or we remove the idea of infinite time, of heaven or hell, still there is no resemblance of between the paradise or religion of any religion or Devachan. And here is something that also we have to be very aware of. Some of the times reading the spiritual text, he says it is HPB's fancy that suggested to her the wonderful comparison. So heaven, the word heaven, if we see in the later books of Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater, the word heaven has been used repeatedly again and again and again. But depends, similarly, just like with the word God, is repeated many times in different places. But if we are not aware, or if we are carrying some ideas related to those words, maybe we need to relook or revisit those ideas, no matter where we have found those ideas. Now the important question comes: who goes to heaven or Devachan? That's what the question of Mr. Sinek. He is asking, is this a condition, that is the condition of Devachan, of bliss or happiness, is only attained by few individuals who are very good, or by the many who are not very bad, after the lapse, in their case, of a longer unconscious incubation or gestation? Now again, this is a query from the Christian background of his personality, because for him it is one thing only, whether the individual goes to heaven or the individual or the soul goes to hell. There is no two ways about it, because as we study in Theosophy, that first of all, there is no heaven or hell in that sense, depending on one's own karma, that or the causes that one has generated. It is a journey. Sometimes the passage through astral plane is called hell, but that is not hell actually. It's our own limitation. It's our own way of living that has created certain limitations for us, and those limitations makes us feel like we are in hell. So, and after crossing that, after the leaving the astral plane, we go to the mental plane or Devachan, which again is the consequence of some of the good karma. So he is asking that who can go to it? Only some people who are very good, or many people who are not very bad? Because majority of people are in gray area. I mean, we are not completely good or completely bad, but there are certain you can say combinations, permutations and combinations, that we are combination of both, and that's why we are still in struggle. But when the master answers to this question, he answers in two ways. He says, who goes to Devachan? Means, who is the experiencer of Devachan? So he answers, the personal ego. Of course, personal ego means Ego, as we study again and again in theosophical literature, it is given to the individuality. It's not related to the ego or egotistic attitude or proud or pride. The ego means the self, the individuality. So he said the personal ego goes there, but once it is purified, beautified, holy, and all the lower sensations, it is clear of all the lower sensations. And what he says that every ego, now he says what is he is saying, the combination of sixth and seventh principles, which also we call monad, that is Atma and Buddhi. Atma and Buddhi, which after the period of unconscious gestation is reborn in the Devachan. After death, there is later, maybe in the next session, we will study what is the process of for onward journey. But there comes the first death, of course, when the physical body is left behind. Then there comes the second death, leaving the astral plane, and then there is a period of gestation, and the ego, that is the sixth and seventh principles combined, that is monad, is reborn in Devachan. And since it is the mention of reborn, is the fact of being reborn means that there is some good in that entity which has overcome its negative part, and that's why it is being reborn here. And what happens to the bad karma of that individual in that case? That temporarily, Master says, while the karma of evil steps aside for the time being to follow him in his future earth incarnations, he brings along with him but the karma of his good deeds, words, and thoughts into this Devachan. So we see that even karma, basically, if we see the whole structure of nature is not to punish or not to harm what we think as that this has given to us as punishment. No, actually the process can be very, very helpful and happy if, of course, we follow the laws of nature, work in harmony with them, not against them. So even the karma, the law of karma, which is there, we think, to punish us mostly for our bad deeds, but that also steps aside for a while. That ego is in Devachan, so that whatever good deeds, words, and thoughts that person has created while being on earth in physical body, it gets the reward, kind of sense, in a sense we can say reward of all of those good deeds, words, and thoughts. And why? Because he says bad is a relative term for us, and the law of retribution is the only law that never errs. So each and every, I remember, I think somewhere Jesus said that not only that we have to give account for our good words, but also we have to give account of each and every unnecessary word that we have spoken. So if we think along these lines and review our daily life, we are continuously, constantly creating causes, creating our, whether Devachan or in the astral plane, we are creating some obstacles for our further journey. And bad is a relative term, means everybody has a proportion of goodness or relative badness. So everybody gets everybody gets to go to Devachan. Now he says of something which we read very rarely. He says, all those who have not slipped down the mire of unredeemable sin and bestiality go to the Devachan. They will have to pay for their sins, voluntary and involuntary, later on. Meanwhile, they are rewarded, receive the effects of the causes produced by them. So here he gives a hint that all those who have not slipped down into the mire of unredeemable sin and bestiality, we will come to it later on when he describes this in detail. So basically, and this is very, this looks like almost an impossibility. It is a theoretical, it is a theory, and we'll come to know that it happens very rarely, because no matter how bad a person we see, or maybe we say a person is bad, he misbehaves, but there is always in everyone's life, in everyone's circle, to which that individual is good. That's why it's relative bad, relative good. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a plant, maybe it's anything, another person, or so. Even if that person, maybe he is very bad to the whole world, but if he is good or she is good to anyone, so it means there is goodness there, and that goodness will be rewarded in Devachan. And the cases that what he's talking about, will come to it a little later. And if we think of it, he says, the state of Devachan, so to say, it is of intense selfishness, during which an ego reaps the reward of his unselfishness on earth. It's looking at it is like very interesting. And that's how I think many times if we read in the scriptures, in Puranas, or even in holy scriptures, a lot of mentions we read that if you donate this, if you give this, if you give that, then in the afterlife, if you give cloth, you will not be short of cloth. If you give food, so a lot of such charity, which we cannot say it was selfless. It was actually done. It was done with some fruit inside, so it was not completely unselfish. But maybe that is, at least that is, if a person is doing even something with an expectation, is much better than doing harm. Whether a person is doing out of tradition, custom, or fear, that is maybe also a stage of evolution. And maybe later on there a stage will come when helping others, serving, charity becomes unselfish, not trying to get anything, not trying to think of oneself to get anything in return. So what happens in Devachan is he's completely engrossed in the bliss of all his personal earthly affections, preferences, and thoughts, and gathers in the fruit of his meritorious actions. It's very simple that in Devachan, the person is completely engrossed in his personal earthly affections. So all those people or things that the person loved while being in this body, he'll find them surrounded with, he'll find oneself surrounded by them, all his preferences, thoughts, and he will gather all the fruits of his good actions. No pain, no sorrow, no grief, or even the shadow of sorrow comes to darken the bright horizon of his unalloyed happiness. Now, this is something we can say, that not only the sorrow, but even the shadow of sorrow means, and he's saying this is unalloyed happiness, means not even the shadow of sorrow, but even the concept of sorrow or pain, or even the concept of time is not there. Because if we deduce from this, if the concept of time is still there in ego's mind, I mean in the mental plane, what will happen? The moment the concept of time comes, there is a past and a future. And when you can think of the past and can think of and anticipate of the future, immediately you are no more in the present, and the worry from the future that this will also end, and or the anxiety from the past memory that what happens may repeat again. So then it can no more be bliss or happiness anymore. So basically, if we see, there is not even a concept of time for the ego in the Devachan. Why? He said, because it is a state of perpetual Maya. And it is, Maya means we can say it is an illusion. The person may find everyone around himself, the child, the mother, father, relatives, friends, or things around, but they are not really those egos. They are the creation of this ego's mind, the thought power. And that is why he's saying that this is a state of perpetual Maya, that illusion. Why? Because since the conscious perception of one's personality on earth is but an evanescent dream, just like, and that sense will be equally that of a dream in Devachan, only 100-fold intensified. Normally, when people say, and not people, I would not say people say, but when we study in spirituality, that the life on earth is considered to be a dream or temporary, transient. So, but it feels very real. If today, if Lord Krishna or Adi Shankaracharya or we read, even if they come in front of us and they say, no, this is Maya, Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. But we'll say, no, it is a reality for me. For them, it is a dream, just like when we wake up from a dream. But just to give an example how the life in Devachan is, the same, the person would feel oneself surrounded by all these people, and it would be 100-fold intensified, we can imagine. Right now, we are identified with this body and with all these things and thinking this is real. Imagine, we can imagine when we are in a dream, and we are, so many times we feel the dream is so real. And, people, I mean, everybody must have had some experience of the dream, and the dream seems so real when in the dream. Only when we wake up, we realize it was a dream. So similarly, the body is not there, the ego is in Devachan. Still, that is an objective reality to the ego, and much 100-fold intensified. Like right now, I am feeling I am here, I have family, I have friends, I have this, I have that. But there, the only difference is only the things that are good, or the ones that gives happiness to the ego, will be there. Not in reality, only in imagination. So much so indeed that the happy ego is unable to see through the veil the evils, sorrows, and woes to which those it loved on earth may be subjected. Now, this is a very important point to understand, because many people think that once the person leaves the body, the spirit becomes omniscient and omnipresent, and invisible people, the ancestors who have gone ahead, they are watching how their children are doing. To a certain stage, yes, but once this ego is in Devachan, imagine, can the individual be in happiness, can enjoy the happiness or bliss, if that ego is able to perceive the sorrow of some of his relatives on earth? Is it possible? It is simply not possible. If I see my loved ones or my family members or friends in sorrow, suffering, or pain, of course I cannot be happy. So that is why this state of Maya. And that is why he's saying that ego is so much engrossed by this happiness that he is unable to see through the veil, the evils and sorrows of those whom it loved on earth and who may be suffering. It lives in that sweet dream with its loved ones, whether gone before or yet remaining on earth, it has them near itself. Yeah? It means it lives like in a dream, we say, but it lives in a sweet dream with all its loved ones who have gone before, who have died before, or who are still on earth. He has them around itself, happy and as blissful and as innocent as the disembodied dreamer himself. Means the disembodied dreamer means the person, the ego who is in now Devachan, he will think everything of this is real, that he has his great grandparent with him who might be the person was in love or liked them, affection, had a lot of affection towards them. But everything would seem real. There would be no shade of doubt, even a little bit. And yet, apart from rare visions, the denizens of our gross planet feel it not. And the people on the earth, the relatives of that person who is in Devachan on earth, they will not even realize all of this, because except for some rare visions. Now, visions, sometimes people misunderstand that sometimes they see their ancestors or great-grandparents or grandparents or somebody, some friend who has passed on, come in the dreams. So they think they descend from that plane to contact them. But as long as they are in astral plane, it is a possibility. But once they pass on to Devachan, that is not a possibility, as Master has just shown the impossibility of that. So what happens in such cases is the person who is on earth, who is alive, the consciousness, the level of consciousness of that person is raised to Devachanic consciousness. And that's how, when they get such vision or that kind of interaction between the person who has passed on and oneself. Vibhaji, I think Meenakshi ji would have to do the Hindi translation, right? So
Yes.
I think I can stop now. Is it okay?
You can go on for about 2-3 minutes more. And then...
Okay. So I will complete this part. In continuation with this thing only, that how people get in touch, the person who is alive get in touch with the person who has passed on, because we were talking about spiritualism, the mediumship and all. So Master says, sorry, it is in this, during such a condition of complete Maya, that the souls or astral egos or pure loving sensitives laboring under the same illusion think their loved ones come down them to on earth, that I have just discussed, that they think their friends have come down, but in fact, actually their own consciousness was raised to Devachan. So he's saying many of this kind of communications in visions or in dreams are real, especially when the person on the earth who is alive is pure-minded. In that case, that person is in a much better condition to receive a message from such an Devachanic entity, because the person who is not uninitiated or who is not concentrated or is not pure in heart, for that person it's very difficult to fix the mind and get the true and correct pictures of what he sees or hears, as we study in Leadbeater's book, that how the vision on astral plane and higher planes, even sometimes used to get the numbers in a different orientation, and for until unless they were trained, they were not sure of what they were seeing. Similarly, Master explains a phenomena of psychography or is also real. And in that also, what is that? That a person, the spirit of the sensitive means the person who is a sensitive person to sensitive to such influences, he gets odilized, means he gets influenced or permeated by the aura of the spirit in Devachan. And what happens, and when this person raises his consciousness, and for few minutes, I think many of us might have heard that on some and so person, some Devi comes, or on so and so person, some spirit comes, and the voice of the person changes, the body posture of the person changes. A lot of that may be fake, but many of the times, or some of the times, it can be real also, because what happens, he is explaining that for few minutes, that physical body becomes that departed personality and writes in the handwriting of the latter, in his language and in his thoughts as they were during his lifetime. So, leaving the own personality of the person who is right now in the body, the spirit in the Devachan, I mean, once this person raises his consciousness and is pure, gets affected for a few minutes, that spirit takes over and expresses itself in that person who has died. Maybe even the voice changes. Even that's how sometimes people say that the person may be from some other place, but he may be speaking some other language. So that is the possibility. What happens in that, the two spirits become blended in one, and who will take over, whose personality will be more prominent, is determined by the characteristics in such writings or trance speaking, that which of the personality is stronger, the Devachanic personality, the person who has passed away, or the person who is in the physical body, his personality is taking over. This is also called rapport, which is in fact, Master is explaining, is an identity of molecular vibration between the astral part of incarnate medium and the astral part of the disincarnate personality. Means the astral bodies of both the person who is still alive and the person who has passed on, when their astral bodies, their molecules come into an harmony, then they tend to express this characteristic. Just like in music, there may be two different sounds, but when they are put in harmony, in accord, they give us a sense of music. Although we can find out both the sounds separately, but when they are, they are made in a combination, in a particular combination, it gives a sense of music. So, and the question whether the communication shall reflect more of one personal idiosyncrasy or the other is determined by the relative intensity of the two sets. So again, the same thing, that which personality we will see or which will be prominent depends on whose intensity, the person who is in the body or who is passed on, is stronger, whose relative intensity is stronger. The less they are in harmony, the less spiritual will be the alleged controlling intelligence, and your test of genuine sleep, nothing to be desired. So he's clearly saying that a lot depends on the person who is the medium, how pure he is. Sometimes it is possible that such kind of communication happens, but if the person oneself is not pure or not so spiritually evolved, such communications will not be very fruitful or not genuine. And with this, the question number 3 comes to an end, and the rest we will take, I think, next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Shikharji, for your wonderful explanation. I now invite Meenakshi to give us the translation in Hindi, after which we can go in for a discussion with our participants.
नमस्ते, थैंक यू सिस्टर, थैंक यू ब्रदर। आज हम लेटर नंबर 68 ले रहे हैं, जो मास्टर के एज एपी सीनेट के क्वेश्चंस पर आंसर देते हैं। सीनेट का प्रश्न है, हमने पहले ही जीवन की उस उन्नत स्थिति के बारे में सुना है जहां पुनर्विकसित जीवात्मा अन्य लोक में पुनर्जन्म के पूर्व कुछ समय के लिए सचेतन अवस्था में आनंद लेता है, लेकिन उस विषय को अब अस्पष्ट कर दिया गया है। अब इसके बारे में कुछ सुस्पष्ट बयान दिए जाते हैं और यह अधिक जांच करने के लिए प्रेरित करते हैं। देवाचन में नए जीवात्मा को स्पष्ट रूप से पृथ्वी पर अपने जीवन का पूर्णतः स्मरण रहता है। क्या यह ऐसा है या इस बिंदु पर मेरी ओर से कोई गलतफहमी है? इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं, स्वयं हमारे भगवान बुद्ध ने देवाचन या सुखावती की भूमि को रूपक द्वारा वर्णित किया है। उन्होंने जो प्रतिपादित किया है वह शान मुन इन टुंग में मिल सकता है। तथागत कहते हैं, हमसे परे दुनिया की हजारों प्रणालियों के पार सुखावती नामक आनंदमय क्षेत्र है। यह क्षेत्र कटघरों की 7 पंक्तियां, विस्तीर्ण पर्दों की 7 पंक्तियां, वृक्षों की लहराती 7 पंक्तियां, इनके भीतर घिरा हुआ है। अरहतों का यह पवित्र आलय है, निवास स्थान है। तथागतों द्वारा शासित है और बोधिसत्व के अधीन है। उसमें 7 अमूल्य सरोवर है। 7 और 1 गुणों वाला या विशिष्ट गुणों वाला यानी परम तत्व से निकलने वाले 7 तत्व से निर्मल जल प्रवाहित होता है। हे सारिपुत्र, यह देवाचन है। इसका दिव्य उदुम्बर वृक्ष का फूल हर धरातल की छाया में जड़ रोपण करता है और जो इसे प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं उनके लिए यह खिलता है। जो इस पवित्रतम क्षेत्र में द्विजन्म लेते हैं वे परम सुखी है। उनके लिए उस साइकिल में कोई भी दुख या पीड़ा नहीं है। असंख्य दिव्यात्माएं वहां विश्राम के लिए रुकती है और फिर अपने क्षेत्र में लौट जाती है। ऐसी दिव्यात्माएं को उन्होंने कहा है जिन्होंने पृथ्वी के अपने रिंग्स को पूर्ण नहीं किया है। इसके अतिरिक्त हे सारिपुत्र, उस आनंदमय भूमि में जिन्होंने द्विजन्म लिया है वे अवैवर्त्य है, जो कभी वापस नहीं आएंगे। वे 7वें राउंड के मनुष्य हैं। सीनेट का अगला प्रश्न है, अब इस तथ्य को छोड़कर कि देवाचन में रहने की अवधि सीमित है, उस यानी ईश्वर के मानवीकरण के विचारों को छोड़कर उस स्थिति और आम धर्म के स्वर्ग के बीच बहुत ज्यादा समानता है। इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं, निश्चित ही नए जीवात्मा का एक बार द्विजन्म होने के बाद उसके भूलोकीय जीवन के अनुपात में पृथ्वी पर के उसके जीवन का पूर्ण स्मरण रहता है, लेकिन वह देवाचन से कभी भी पृथ्वी पर वापस नहीं आ सकता है। न ही देवाचन ईश्वर के मानवीकरण के विचारों को छोड़कर भी किसी भी धर्म के स्वर्ग या देवलोक के समान है, और यह एचपीबी की साहित्यिक कल्पना है जिससे उन्हें ऐसी अद्भुत तुलना सुझाई है। अगला प्रश्न है, अब यह महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न है कि स्वर्ग या देवाचन में कौन जाता है? क्या इस स्थिति को केवल वे लोग ही प्राप्त करते हैं जो बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, या ऐसे कई जो बुरे नहीं हैं, या जिन्होंने लंबे समय तक अचेतन सुप्तावस्था या निश्चेष्टता में व्यतीत किया है, व्यतीत करने के बाद? तो इस पर मास्टर उत्तर देते हैं, देवाचन कौन जाता है? बेशक जीवात्मा, लेकिन उन्नत शुद्ध पवित्र। प्रत्येक जीवात्मा जो 6th और 7th प्रिंसिपल का संयोग है, अचेतन निश्चेष्टता की कालावधि के बाद देवाचन में पुनः द्विजन्म लेता है। वह अवश्य ही एक नवजात शिशु की तरह मासूम और शुद्ध पवित्र होता है। उसके द्विजन्म होने का तथ्य उसके देहात्मा में यानी व्यक्तित्व में बुराई पर अच्छाई की प्रधानता को दर्शाता है। कुछ काल के लिए उसके बुरे कर्म अलग हो जाते हैं, जो फिर से उसके भूलोक पर के आने वाले पुनर्जन्म में उसके साथ जाएंगे। देवाचन में वह अपने साथ केवल अपने अच्छे कार्य, शब्द यानी वाणी और विचारों के कर्म लाता है। जैसे कि आपको पहले कई बार बताया गया है, बुरा यह हमारे लिए एक सापेक्ष शब्द है और कर्म का सिद्धांत यह एकमात्र ऐसा नियम है जो कभी गलत नहीं होता है। इसीलिए वे सभी जो छुड़ा न सकने वाले पाप और पाशविकता के दलदल में नहीं फिसले हैं, वे देवाचन में जाते हैं। उन्हें बाद में अपने जाने अनजाने किए गए पापों को भुगतना पड़ेगा। देवाचन में इस दौरान उनके द्वारा उत्पन्न कारणों के परिणामों का फल उन्हें मिलता है। बेशक यह एक ऐसी स्थिति है जो बेहद स्वार्थपूर्ण है, जिस दौरान जीवात्मा पृथ्वी पर के अपनी निस्वार्थता के फल भोगता है। वह पूर्णतः अपने सभी निजी सांसारिक अनुराग, पसंद और विचारों के आनंद में डूबा रहता है और अपने पुण्य कर्मों का फल बटोरता रहता है। न कोई पीड़ा, न शोक, न दुख की छाया उसके निर्मल आनंद के उज्जवल क्षितिज को अंधकार में करने आती है, क्योंकि यह निरंतर माया की स्थिति है। चूंकि पृथ्वी पर अपने व्यक्तित्व की सचेत रूप से धारणा यह मात्र एक भंगुर सपना है, यह भावना देवाचन में उसी तरह एक सपने के रूप में होगी, केवल 100 गुना अधिक तीव्र होगी। वास्तव में यह तीव्रता इतनी अधिक होगी कि सुखी जीवात्मा माया के आवरण से उन बुराइयों को, दुखों को और शोक विलाप को देखने में असमर्थ होगा जिनसे उसके पृथ्वी पर के प्रियजनों को गुजरना पड़ सकता है। वह अपने प्रियजनों के साथ उस मधुर स्वप्न में रहता है, चाहे वे पहले गुजर चुके हो या अभी भी पृथ्वी पर बाकी है। वे उसके करीब है, उतने ही खुश, उतने ही आनंदित और उतने ही मासूम जितना कि स्वयं वह स्वप्नमयी देह रहित आत्मा है। और फिर भी क्वचित प्राप्त दृष्टांतों के अलावा हमारे स्थूल ग्रह के निवासी इसे महसूस नहीं करते हैं। माया में रत ऐसी स्थिति के दौरान शुद्ध, पवित्र, प्रेममयी, संवेदनशील जीव या देहात्माएं, एस्ट्रल ईगोज उसी भ्रम के तहत सोचते हैं कि उनके प्रियजन पृथ्वी पर उनके पास आते हैं, जबकि यह उनकी रूह है जो देवाचन में उन लोगों की ओर बढ़ती है। अधिकांश समय में जब संवेदनशील माध्यम शुद्ध विचारों वाले होते हैं, तब कई आत्मपरक आध्यात्मिक संपर्क, संप्रेषण खरे होते हैं। लेकिन एक अदीक्षित मीडियम जो कुछ भी देखता और सुनता है, उसका अपने दिमाग में सही और सटीक चित्रण करना उसके लिए अति कठिन होता है। कुछ घटनाएं जिसे साइकोग्राफी कहते हैं, वे भी खरी होती है। साइकोग्राफी यानी ऑटोमेटिक राइटिंग। देवाचन के जीवात्मा के प्रभामंडल से मीडियम का जीव ओडिलाइज्ड होता है, यानी प्रभावित होता है। कुछ क्षण के लिए वह उस दिवंगत व्यक्तिमत्व सा बनता है और उस दिवंगत के हस्ताक्षरों में, उसकी भाषा में और उसके विचारों जैसे लिखता है जैसे कि उसके जीवन काल में था। यह दो जीव एक रूप हो जाते हैं और इस तरह की घटना के दौरान एक के ऊपर दूसरे का प्राबल्य, प्रधानता इस तरह के लेखन में प्रदर्शित शैली और ट्रांस में बोलने में व्यक्तिमत्व की प्रधानता को निर्धारित करता है। जिसे आप तालमेल कहते हैं, वह वास्तव में जीवित मीडियम और मृत व्यक्तिमत्व के एस्ट्रल पार्ट के बीच अणुओं के कंपन का तादात्म्य है। जैसे संगीत में दो भिन्न भिन्न ध्वनियां एक सुर में हो सकती है और अलग अलग पहचान में भी आती है, और यह सुसंगति या विसंगति एक सूत्री कंपनों और संपूरक अवधियों पर निर्भर करती है। इसी तरह एक मीडियम और कंट्रोल के बीच तालमेल होता है जब उनके एस्ट्रल मॉलिक्यूल्स एक साथ चलते हैं। कहीं यह संपर्क एक के व्यक्तिगत स्वभाव की छाप प्रदर्शित होगा जैसे या दूसरे के जैसा। यह सवाल आकाश के यौगिक तरंग में दो समूहों के परस्पर संबंधित कंपनों की तीव्रता से निर्धारित होता है। स्पंदन लहरियों में जितनी कम समानता होगी, संदेश उतना ही अधिक मीडियम की तरह होगा और कम प्रगल्भ होगा। इसलिए आपके मीडियम की नैतिक स्थिति को तथाकथित कंट्रोलिंग इंटेलिजेंस से मापे और खरेपन के परीक्षण की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं रहेगी। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for your most accurate translation. And I now invite any questions from our participant or any point of discussions that they may have.
Yeah, so lovely to have Shikhar back, and what a clarity and wonderful it was to hear him. So one thing, like there's so many things to share, but like one thing that I've read that the reason why the adepts or the higher the masters of wisdom don't go into Devachan is because of that reason that it's a dreamlike state. So it has really no other use than just perfect rest. It's not a space for learning or for helping anybody. So I've heard that they don't enter that. They don't go into that, and they take. They do whatever else they want to do, but they don't enter Devachan. So that's one thing I've read somewhere. The other thing, like I just wanted to share, is see, our physical death is not our complete death. Kamaloka is our complete death. So we die only really fully in Kamaloka. The body, the entire body, because of that astral body is very much us, and that gestation period, and then followed by Devachan. So that is another aspect, that what kind of an astral body are we building? Because that's what we're going to take forward with us. So that's another thing that we can take away from this. The other thing that, which is something I've shared with this video that I made about the fractals, which is that Devachan is very similar to the Pralaya state. It's like nature has given us one nice Pralaya to enjoy before we come back to birth. So now in this, you think about why is it needed? I was thinking about why is Devachan needed? So the reason I feel it is because, see, an old person of this experience, unless he goes into another state where he re-experiences life in the experiences the dreams he has, like the childhood games he must have played, all those fun things that he had, and then he gets that enthusiasm, and then
Vimalji, your voice is breaking. There is a lot of Vimalji, there is a lot of part we missed in between. Your voice was breaking.
So what part did you hear?
It was a long part.
No, the only part that you said, that why is Devachan needed? Because a lot of, the person has so many aspirations, so many things to do, want to do. So I assume that that's what you were saying. Why is Devachan needed to fulfill all those?
No, I wasn't saying that. No. I was saying that Devachan is needed because that enthusiasm has to come back to the soul. See, a child is enthusiastic. He or she will explore flowers. He'll explore grass. You see an old person exploring, of course, Theosophists might, but many people tired of life, they're fed up. So I feel like Devachan, see the scheme of nature. Nature's evolved such a wonderful scheme that you will have suffering, but you will have rest.
Oh, yes, definitely. I think it's just like the night's sleep. As far as my understanding is concerned, that you work fully during the day, then you need rest. So actually, in comparison to Devachan, while we are on earth and while we are in astral plane, it's like really a struggle. Lord Buddha has said that this is a world of suffering. So And even Mahachohan in his letter is saying that being bored is suffering. So that, I mean, of course, there are many views on that, but once we get, I mean, some, and that's why I think so in so many places, if we see, ultimately, we say, no, this virus is so strongly in our mind that ultimately good will win. I mean, no matter, we say picture abhi baki hai. Like, until unless the person who is a hero or the right or something, they get justice, we don't say the movie is finished. Maybe that seed or that, that I maybe call it conditioning, or that thing is so deeply engraved in our consciousness that ultimately good is going to win. So nature help. That's why they say the vibration of anger, the effect of anger vibration may last in your body for a few hours, for some hours, 36 hours, but the effect of the vibration of love, it lasts for much more than that. So, and the other part that you said about the adepts and initiates, they go in that plane. I mean, of course, they go in that, but because Devachan, as what we are studying, is an illusion. But an adept is beyond it. I mean, he sees right through what is happening. And so he doesn't need that rest, because his whole life in the physical body is with awareness. And there is one option also, which is not mentioned in this letter, but I think maybe we all have studied how to bypass Devachan. That is, a person has done some work on the physical body, but suppose that work is very important and that person is very evolved, and if that person goes into Devachan, that will means that person will come back again maybe 2000 years later or 1500 years later, and that work may not be equally well taken by somebody else. So in those cases, there are cases where the disciple, I mean, under the guidance and help from the master, do not go beyond astral plane, and from there itself they take another body. Because we just studied that Devachan actually is a place of utter selfishness, based on our unselfishness on earth, that we are, enjoying of the reaping the benefits of our good karma, but rest of the world and rest of the humanity is suffering. So that is one of the possibility, but it, of course, it cannot happen until and unless the masters and this, they know better. Yeah. So, but there is a possibility to avoid, to bypass Devachan also, when the person has to take quick incarnations, like leave the body, die of some reasons, whatever the time of mortal body is over, they go into astral, and then from there itself they come down, and that's why they continue the memory also, because the astral body is the same, and the astral body is the same, the causal body is mental body is the same, only the physical structure is new. So that sometimes
I want to add one more thing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. No, now cannot hear.
See, can you hear me now? I have a poor internet connection, I think. Okay, no need to talk. It's okay.
Ajay, you can maybe put in the group later or something. Okay. Sorry, Vibhaji, I took something more time.
No, it is very good. Always very good to have a discussion at the end of the talk. That is the purpose of studying these letters together, so that people can really think about it and come up with their doubts. And yes, this has been a very thought-provoking session. So thank you very much, Shikharji. And if we have no more questions from anybody else, anybody would like to say something?
नमस्कार मैडम, मैं भावना बोल रही हूँ.
Yes, Bhavna ji, may I ask you to put your video on, please?
Madam, I am unable to put my video.
Okay, not a problem.
Because the slide been off. जैसे शिखर जी ने कहा कि कुछ लोगों में देवी शक्ति आती है तो उनकी बॉडी के पोस्चर्स चेंज हो जाते हैं या उनकी लैंग्वेजेस चेंज हो जाती है, तो कुछ ऐसे ट्रेडिशंस बन गए हैं कि कुछ लोगों में वो देवी शक्तियाँ आती है, तो क्या वो रियलिटी होती है? क्योंकि कुछ लोग अपनी उनसे प्रॉब्लम शेयर करते हैं तो किसी की सॉल्व होती है, कोई बीमार है तो वो ठीक हो जाता है, तो क्या वो देवी शक्तियाँ उनके शरीर में वास्तविक रूप में आती हैं?
नमस्कार भावना जी, थैंक यू फॉर आई थिंक दिस, ये जो क्वेश्चन है काफी लोगों के माइंड में आता है, और आई थिंक इस लेटर में ही मास्टर ने इसका आंसर भी एक तरीके से दिया है, जब वो बता रहे हैं कि जो सेंसिटिव होता है और जिसको साइकोग्राफी का नाम दिया है या ट्रांस स्पीकिंग की बात कही है, लेकिन ये केस बाय केस डिपेंड करता है। आई मीन उसकी जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन है, दैट वी कैन नॉट मेक अ जनरल स्टेटमेंट कि ये नहीं ही होता है या ये होता है। एवरी केस इज यूनिक, और हर केस को जो क्लियरवॉयंट है या जो उस लेवल पे इन्वेस्टिगेट कर सकता है वो ही कर पाएगा। लेकिन इस लेटर में महात्मा ने कहा है कि कुछ केसेस में ये, जहां पे जो सेंसिटिव है यानी जो व्यक्ति है, जैसे एक तरीके से देखें तो एचपीबी खुद, हर बॉडी वाज यूज्ड बाय द मास्टर्स टू राइट सीक्रेट डॉक्ट्रिन, तो एक तरीके से उन्होंने भी ट्रांस या साइकोग्राफी के लिए अपनी बॉडी दी थी, और उस केस में तो खैर बहुत हाई लेवल के एडेप्ट्स ने उनकी बॉडी को यूज किया था। तो सिमिलरली एट डिफरेंट लेवल्स, जो डिफरेंट लेवल्स के देवाचनीज होते हैं, ऐसा संभव है। इन सम केसेस इट इज रियल, in many cases it can be a disease, psychological disease, or it can be self-induced. We know how powerful the mind is, और हम जो सोचते हैं वैसा होने लग जाता है, हमारी बॉडी वैसे होने लग जाती है। So it is a possibility, but each case has to be investigated on its own merit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shikhar ji. That was a very revealing answer. And this is what is the aim of Theosophy, to dispel such kind of misconceptions and superstitions which creep into the minds of people. So yes, each one needs to think about it very closely. Anybody else would like to bring up any point for discussion? Okay, then I think we should bring this session to a close. Do you want to say something, Shikhar ji?
One question I think Harshuk Lal ji asked in the chat, that is Devachan higher than astral plane? So just I wrote in the chat itself, yeah, normally the Devachan is equivalent to the mental plane that we study, and it is higher in the sense, I mean, relatively speaking, higher than or subtler than astral plane. Yes.
Right. So thank you all for joining today, and Shikhar ji, thank you for taking this letter and explaining to us in such a simple way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you will continue this for the next 2 or 3 sessions.
Yes, next Friday is Adiyar Day, so we'll be having Adiyar Day program, and then I'll continue on 24th, on 3rd, 24th, and then 3 more sessions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a really long letter, and a very important theoretical teachings have been given by the master in this. With this, we bring our session for today to a close, and please join me in the closing prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarvesham Swastirabhavatu Sarvesham Shantirabhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu लोकाः समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Thank you all for joining. Namaste.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.